Hello and welcome to episode 7 of my Let's Play Krastorio series. It has been a while since I was last in here, and if I'm being completely honest, I need to reacquaint myself with precisely where I was. It might not be a terrible idea for me to actually watch back the last episode. Anyway, what I do remember is that there were two things I was trying to work towards. And the first thing was kind of the end of the last episode, which is to kind of finish off science. Oh, I'm miles away from science. Where am I? Oh, it's down. The first thing was to finish off science. I've obviously set up all of the processes and the labs and everything else, and I need to start feeding with all the things that those processes need. So I need to set those up somewhere. And the second thing was that I need to increase my base. I need to start taking some more land. Now, obviously, in the fullness of time, what I want is a whole host of train stations up here that are going to feed these individual processes. So I'm going to need to retake that land, and that is, I'm going to need to be out here somewhere probably. And that's just in this direction. I'm going to need the same here, well, I might have enough space there, and I'm going to need a lot more space down here for whatever I need for this science stuff and for whatever I need to build. So those are the two things really, is to start unlocking science stuff, start feeding that process so I can unlock the things that I need, and then build the things for some kind of new perimeter wall, and also some kind of personal defense. I'm going to need a tank or something to start attacking these biters with. That's kind of the general direction. Whoa. What is it good for? So, we have got a whole lot of stuff ready to go for me to do some serious exterminating. I've built in all of the turrets, so we've got everything in here. We've got railgun turrets. We've got laser artillery turrets. We've got rocket turrets. Obviously, none of this is finished. There's a whole load of materials still need to be sorted. I mean, you can kind of tell by what's been fixed, what's been sorted in the bus. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 belts still things that I need to do. And some of these things are quite complicated. They're not just going to be a simple fix. There's quite a lot involved in some of these ingredients. But it's all set up ready to go so that when I do get there, I've got it. Also got a tank. I just like to build that in sometimes. And I've also got the more complicated tank. What's it called? Oh, it's still called a tank. The more difficult one. I've got that in here as well, but I literally have only one of that ingredient. That's rare metals. None of the other ones I've built. So that's a long way off. Cannon shells, nuclear cannon shells, ammo. I've got the nuclear stuff so I can make uranium ammo when I get there. And then all of this stuff is rockets and artillery shells. So I've got basically all of the stuff, the basics covered. And I've got this gap, and I have a funny feeling this gap I'm going to use, but it's going to become very, very ugly. Because I think some of this stuff is going to have to come across and down and across to fill this. And maybe even all of this space just becomes a bus of stuff, and then I kind of build stuff over here. Don't know yet. I'm going to fill this gap some ways or another. It is annoying me. However, that's a good reminder actually, thank you technology. I've also been working on getting some armour and some roboports, not roboports, a personal one, so at least I can start fixing stuff. I've got fixed 50 construction robots, I've got a whole lot of lasers, and I've got some exoskeletons, and I've got some power. So I've got some stuff in here. I've also got a tank which has got some stuff in it as well, with some lasers and bits and pieces. And I've set up a chest with a whole load of cannon shells and fuel and bits and pieces in it. So what I want to do is I want to exterminate some biters. I want to clear some space. Primarily I'm going to start all the way up here. I want to see how much of this can I clear. We really want to get right out to the about where the edge of this black zone is. That's about where I want to get to, if not a little bit further out. It's still just going to be a temporary wall. It's not going to be a permanent one because I haven't obviously got all of these turrets. It is crossed my mind. I think I might do a whole new set of perimeter wall segments with the extra turrets that we have. That sounds like a cool thing to do. But that's way far off. What we need to do is we need to just clear out some nests, make some space, claim back some land. Claim some land. I don't need to claim it back. We're just going to claim some land. Okay, so that's a whole load of land that I've claimed from the biters. A lot of good stuff. Let's have a look at what we have. We got an awful lot of copper. I mean, this patch of iron is looking very tempting. That might find its way into my base at some point soon. But other than that, we've got a lot of copper. I suppose I've got some iron down here. Anyway. The shots that you've just been watching, the time lapse, that's not going to be on the final video. This is I've kind of set up a separate camera just to film this stuff. The camera at the moment is all the way down here. So in order to film this stuff, I'd have to bring the camera all the way up, film, and then take it more or less back to where it was. And I just figured that's just a waste of time, really. Just to see some biters. So this footage is really just for you guys. And what I want to do here is I want to start setting up some train stations for all this stuff. Because I've got copper and iron and stone and rare metals, and all of those need dedicated train stations, and I need those. So that's really why I wanted this land, is so I could build those train stations. There's a part of me that thinks that I don't really need to for copper, but I'm going to stick to the plan. I've got all this copper. I could literally just feed it in. I wouldn't necessarily need trains, but I'm going to do trains. I'm going to stick to the plan. So that's what I'm going to do now. Is I'm just going to whiz around and make these train stations, so that I can start bringing in some proper quantities of material. This factory is pretty dry now. It's relying on... I think it's just this for copper. I think that's all of the copper that I'm relying on. I need more. So yeah, train stations. Alright, so I'm just getting ready to bring in the first shipment of copper into the factory, and immediately I see a problem, and I'm just going to have to build something over in the corner for a moment in order to show you what that problem is. So let me just crack on. Okay, so this train on the top is the setup that I have for this Krastorio factory. But because of the stack size difference between Krastorio and Vanilla, in that Krastorio the stack size is 200, whereas in Vanilla the stack size is 50, we don't actually have this. What we actually have is this in Vanilla terms. So we are trying... These storage carts are essentially 4 times the size. So we need to load the storage carts with 4 times the amount of ore. Now the way I normally size these factories is based on a certain average per storage cart. It's not perfect, but it gets me in the right kind of ballpark for the factory to work the way that I like it to work. So the average that I usually use is 15 per storage cart for Vanilla. So obviously it's not 15 anymore, it's now 4 times that, it's now 60. So each of these storage carts is essentially trying to provide 60 ore per second to the factory. And what that means is that whereas before we had 4 storage carts to spread out a whole load of inserters, so that 15 per storage cart, in order to achieve the block size of 60 for these 4, could be spread over 4 storage carts. So if I've got 4 inserters per storage cart, I've essentially got 16 inserters feeding each storage cart, which is a lot, and that makes the throughput quite, well, it makes it satisfactory, it makes it acceptable. Whereas now we're trying to squeeze all of that throughput through a single storage cart, and now I've only got 4 inserters. And that means that the bottleneck is going to be on the inserters. And immediately I can see it straight away. These things are working furiously, and there's no way that these inserters are going to be able to achieve the average that I built the base around. I mean, there is a caveat to that, in that when I did the numbers, I think I needed 9 trains in order to get the throughput that I actually needed. And because of, you know, symmetry and such, I've actually had 12. So actually, what is the what average have we actually got? 12 times 45 divided by 8 times 2. Is that right? 33? No, that can't be right.
12? What was I originally? 60 times 2, 120, 12 times 45, divided by 120. Ah, it wasn't. Okay, alright, so maybe I'm a little bit whirling, okay.
So I forgot the numbers. So what I actually needed, because of with these train setups, I needed 4.5 trains, and I have 8. So because of that, we can do a pro ratio on that of 4.5 over 8 times 60, and we actually have an average of 33.75 per storage cart. So there's a lot of bunts in it, but I am still worried about these inserters. They are going to be an issue. Hang about, what's technology finished? Let's get this going again. Right. Yes, let's get some more inserter capacity bonuses. We haven't. Oh, that's the last one. Excellent. Right. This might need some redesigning. This might need some more thought in order to try and squeeze more inserters into it. Let's deal with iron, and let's try out a few different strategies when I get there. A few different layouts. See if I can squeeze more stuff in. All right. Good to know for the future. Okay, so new setup with maximum amount of inserters that is possible, as far as I can tell. I mean, I do remember when I was using Angel Bob, there was a slightly different setup I could have come up with, I think, because we could get those inserters to reach like 3-4 tiles. I mean, they were ridiculous, to be honest. So without those sorts of mods, I think this is the maximum that can be achieved. You know, 12 inserters per storage cart. That's the best that can be done. I think I might be able to get a slightly more elegant layout. I kind of feel like I want to bring things up through the middle somehow, but it's probably going to be more bulky. Whatever. Anyway, it will do the job for the time being. I mean, all that really matters is that there's the maximum amount of inserters that I can, and I'm delivering the right amount of materials. So as long as it can do that job, you know, it doesn't really matter what it looks like. So let's start bringing this back into the factory. We are rocking and rolling now, definitely. So that's iron and coal and copper sorted. What I need to do here is stone and then rare metals. But on a larger sense, you know, this is the kind of the northern edge of my factory now defined and pretty much sorted. You know, that's a really satisfying moment for me to have like this whole edge just defined. That's where it's going, done. Nothing's going to happen further north of this other than train stations. That's really nice for me. I like that. And you know, and in further completionist sort of moments, I'm looking at this mess in here, thinking this needs some time looking at and perfecting a little bit. You know, there's a whole load of paths and walls that need to be built in here, which can be done. You know, there are some things in Factorio where some days where I turn this on and I don't really want to do anything complicated. All I really want to do is just some grunt work. And you know, this is looking like some nice bit of grunt work. You know, just turn on the computer, just mindlessly build some walls and paths. Oh, that'd be a nice moment to get to. But where we are is up here, so I need to build some stone and I need to build some rare metals, and then that is this part of the base sorted. Although just looking at it, I'm going to need some more space from the biters. I'm going to have to do a whole another extermination action. But for now, stone. Let's do some stone. So a lot has been happening, not on the time lapse. A lot of stuff has been happening that you haven't seen. So let me have a. So we've got a whole load more space, a lot more space. I've taken out some biters down here, and I've completely cleared this kind of side bit over here. So I think I should have enough space, north, east, and west. Currently, I haven't dealt with south yet. Now I'm going to probably need quite a lot of space down south. Quite like to have something better than the tank that I'm using because it's painfully slow, but that I'm happy for the moment. Also, nuclear power. Let's go have a look at nuclear power. Okay, so nuclear power has this output of stone and iron ore as part of the processes as part of the Covarex and as part of the reprocessing of the spent fuel. We get this iron ore and stone output, and up until now I've just basically been storing it in these steel chests because I haven't really had much stone or iron production to put this anywhere. You know, I've been relying on the starter factory, but this filled up, completely filled up, and I had a couple of nuclear power stations go down, stop working because they were full of the spent fuel. So I've also had to plumb in this to make sure that this is being used, so it's got somewhere to go so that I can use the uranium power. So all of this goes somewhere now, and it all has to filter its way back in. And in doing that, I've kind of upgraded a lot of the belts just the way that they should be. You know, everything's designed for these blue belts, so I've kind of been running around upgrading those at the same time. So this is all kind of a decent speed now. I don't like how this is not full, but anyway, that's by the by. Because in upgrading all of this, I actually had to start researching stuff so that I used some iron and stone so that this belt actually started to clear itself. So we're actually starting to investigate the breaking points of this factory, and I might have reached a kind of reasonable a conclusion that means something. You know, so when I set out, I've got the same amount of copper and I've got the same amount of iron. I'm producing the same amount. And when I build these factories, particularly when I don't really know what I'm doing, when I'm just kind of approaching these sets of mods for the first time, I always try and ratio them back to that copper and iron, you know. So for the stone, I decided to use exactly the same amount of stone. So the idea is that we bring the same amount of stone as iron and copper in, and then depending on whether that's too much or not enough, I will understand, and then next time I do it, I'll ratio it down. But it looks like that the same amount of stone is probably overdoing it a touch. We probably only need, you know, maybe half, maybe a quarter of the ratio, you know, of how much iron and copper that I'm making. Making the same amount is too much. And the map kind of illustrates this, because whereas we've got quite a lot of iron and copper, and they seem to be relatively even amounts, stone, there's very, very little stone. So that would make me believe that the ratio is less. You know, I need to bring in less stone. I mean, there's less stone available on the map. And I've got the same thought process just coming up right now, in that the next thing I'll be doing is rare metals, and I've only got this little patch down here for rare metals. So that leads me to believe that I need even less of that than stone. So It's just, this is how I kind of figure stuff out. This is how I kind of work out the ratios of stuff. Iron and copper, I always make the same amount, and then everything that follows after that, I try and relate it back as a ratio to that iron and copper, and that's kind of where I'm getting to. Now, for rare metals, we're okay. I only built half of the block, so in ratio terms, we're using half the amount of rare metals as we are iron and copper. But even that's probably too much. It probably needs to be a lot less than that. So that's overkill. Overkill, not a problem. But that's all I've really investigated up to now. You know, I haven't really got down to oils and stuff. I'm still kind of upgrading belts. Still kind of finding my way through. What I really want to do is finish off this train station so that I can get on with other areas. So that's what I'm going to do now. Now that I've got some more space, and I've fixed uranium nuclear power. That was annoying. Anyway, rare metals. That's another one down then. So that's 5 materials down. We've got copper, iron, coal, stone, and rare metals all sorted. And I've just been looking around at the base thinking about what's the next thing that I need to be working on. And it's probably pertinent. I've just been also looking at the technology tree, because this is interesting to me, because I can upgrade. I've just researched the spider. I can research the rocket, but I've got all of this stuff still to go. I've got all this red stuff. So there's like this whole other part of Krastorio. Like once you've finished, and then there's a whole more. I mean, we'll get here later. Phew. That's not what's on my mind. What's on my mind is a few areas actually. First up, we probably need some time over here for lithium. We're going to need some batteries, and that's on my mind also. But lithium, and there's some other bits and pieces to go with the gases and the oils that needs to go here. Then I need to get down here and build those batteries. I need to build the normal batteries, engines, electric engines, roboports. Man, I could really do with some robots. I've just been running around. There's been occasions where I've just like not got an underground pipe, and I've got like a 5-minute run to the other side of the base to go and get an I could do with some robots. That'd be really nice, even though it's just going to be a painful job. Then as we move our way up, we've got that what's it called? Immersite. That's it. Immersite, something or other's got to go in here. I still haven't really looked at that. Don't really know anything about it. And we've got some nuclear power to go in here, the second version. That's somewhere in this technology tree. It's in there somewhere. I've got some grunt work. And I've also got to extend the base southwards. You know, at some point whilst I'm building in here, I'm going to run out of space. I mean, I'm pretty imminent on running out of space anyway. So, those are the next things on the agenda. I mean, we are it feels like we're closing in on the end. You know, there's a lot of stuff still there, but it feels like, you know, when I researched the spider, it did it in about, I don't know, what, 10, 15 minutes? It barely felt like any time at all. It feels like it's got some real capacity to it, this factory. So, those are the areas I want to move towards. I mean, we're on the closing straight. But for this episode, that is it, I'm afraid. And to close it out, because I've been doing all this time-lapsing, you know, off in a slightly different direction, I think I'm still not sure what I'm going to do with it. I might work that footage might work its way into the final video somehow. I haven't got a transition to get to it, but I'll think about it. But what I'm going to do is, just to finish off the episode, I'm just going to run all of that time-lapse footage back to back, see how it looks. Give you that to finish off with. So, that's it for another episode. Till next time.